Last month, Sonic X Shadow Generations released, and I relentlessly shat on the game. I just hated it. I gave it a 4 out of 10. For the past couple days, I've been really dwelling on that answer for some reason. I've just been really thinking hard about it as I'm sitting here waiting for the next big Sonic game to talk about, and also not really having much motivation to play that game again, and it made me realize something about Shadow Generations. And these words are really hard for people to say nowadays. They're probably the hardest 3 words any person will say, which is, I was wrong. I was very wrong about Shadow Generations being a 4 out of 10. And I've had to talk to some people in some Discord servers about it, just to hear other people's opinions, and I've watched a couple of videos about the game, and honestly, I could not have been further from being correct. Now, this video is going to obviously be addressing some of the points as to why I think I may have missed it, the point of Shadow Generations, and also what could potentially happen for the future Sonic, because we don't know anything right now, and I don't think we're going to be getting anything related to Sonic to the Game Awards, so that's this video right here. So obviously, let me go ahead and get this out of the way. Do I think Shadow Generations is pinnacle? No. But it's definitely not a 4 out of 10 like I claimed for it to be. I would even probably put it above Sonic Frontiers, which I gave like a 10 out of 10. But realistically, I would give Frontiers like a 6 out of 10. So, the main thing about Shadow Generations is one of my main gripes was the game was too short, which I still believe. I think the game needed at least 1 level and 1 extra rival battle, or boss battles, whatever they're called. One of the things was, you don't really get that many levels. You get Space Colony Arc, Rail Canyon, Sunset Heights, Kingdom Valley, Radical Highway, Devil Doom. Even then, the 2 Radical Highway levels play directly into the boss, so you don't really get that much. And in terms of the actual boss fights, you don't even really get that much either. You get the Bio Lizard, Metal Overlord, Mephiles. So, what I think would have helped is if we got at least 1 more level and 1 more rival battle. The rival battle obviously could have been infinite. That's what I thought was going to happen when I saw Sunset Heights from Sonic Forces, because obviously, for those who don't know, Shadow was basically responsible for turning Infinite into who he was in Sonic Forces. He was basically the catalyst for that chain of events. I'm not going to go super into it, but Zero was his original name. He had a group of mercenaries. They did a bunch of shit. They tried to steal some Eggman stuff. Eggman hired them. Shadow killed off the entire Jackal Squad, left Zero alive. Zero blamed it on his weakness and became Infinite. That's sugarcoating the story. So, we could have seen something with Infinite. We definitely could have seen, like, another level. Probably could have seen something from some random level, I don't know. I can't really think of any off the top of my head, but we definitely could have seen something more from it in the gameplay department. Speaking of which, it definitely doesn't help the fact that a lot of the levels just basically feel like glorified tutorials for the powers. Like, the first area is the tutorial for Chaos Control, then it's the tutorial for Doom Surf, then Doom Morph, then Doom Wings. You know what I mean? As the levels progress, they basically just feel like glorified tutorials for the Chaos powers, or the Doom powers, so then by the time you unlock the next one, you're learning the mechanisms of that, and then it's just awkwardly paced in that regard. So I definitely think the game was too short, and that the levels basically feel like glorified tutorials. But there is one thing that, I forget the name of the YouTuber, but when he made a video about it, it really struck out to me a couple things. One of the things being, the gameplay in Shadow Generations is so clean. It's so good. It's so fluid. The movement is great. It feels amazing to play Shadow Generations. But going back to playing Sonic Generations, Sonic feels very tanky, very chunky, very slow. And that's quite shocking, considering, this was a Generations remaster. And Generations is, 10 years old now or something like that? I don't remember the specific age of Generations. But seeing that was, crazy. Or feeling that was crazy. You could just feel how, slow Sonic Generations is compared to Shadow Generations. What's also cool about Shadow Generations is the fact that, Chaos Control is built into the levels. So a lot of the levels have, time-stopping sequences that help, make it feel not just some, arbitrary thing. Another thing that I also noticed about Shadow Generations, I think I acknowledged it on my stream, was the game's visuals. The game looks amazing. Sonic Generations is a beautiful looking game, and it was the first proper Sonic game I ever played, so I will forever hold Sonic Generations in a close place in my heart. But Shadow Generations just looks so much better, with the fact that you can see the attention to detail on Shadow's quills. You can see the little individual quill strings. Not all of them, obviously, but you can tell, they would be there. And also the boss cutscenes, while mostly being QuickTime events, play like anime scenes. They're so impactful. And then, let's not even get into the fact that obviously them bringing up Mephiles as one of the boss fights in Shadow of Generations does a whole lot, because Mephiles is attached to Sonic 06, which many people consider to be one of the worst Sonic games in Sonic history, which is saying a lot because that puts it up there with the ranks of Sonic Labyrinth and Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric, which I think personally is the worst. So seeing Mephiles, sort of acknowledged again like that, and the fact that before Shadow kills Mephiles, he says, "I want to exist," it really goes to show that sort of extra development in character departments from Sega. I'm hoping that maybe sometime in the future Mephiles can return. Probably not, given the whole Generations format is revisiting the past. But it goes to show that these things happened, right? Because obviously I think a hard part for anything Sonic related is trying to figure out what actually happened and what hasn't. So the fact that seeing Mephiles actually, exist and want to live is shocking. And Shadow saying, you'll forever be here, you'll never exist, is crazy. And then obviously the Bio Lizard, which plays a very important role because that helps solidify Black Doom, because I feel like a lot of people kind of just forget Black Doom as a character. He was really important in Shadow's game and nowhere else. So obviously having Black Doom have more significance really helps out with the whole learning curve. And especially considering during the game, you can find pieces of Gerald's journal, which obviously help you further look into the research Gerald was doing, which helps lore build Shadow. And another thing I didn't acknowledge during my stream of Shadow Generations was the fact that Shadow Generations fixes Shadow as a character. For the longest time, Shadow was portrayed as this dumb, grumpy, brooding edgelord, when he wasn't anywhere close to that in the beginning, during Sonic Adventure 2 and whatnot. It was only around the time his original game came out that it warped his perception. I mean, even in the upcoming Sonic movie, Shadow uses guns and shit. Now, let's go ahead and obviously break into a little bit of context. So, the Shadow the Hedgehog game is also considered to be a bad Sonic game. Not one of the worst, but definitely not liked by many. For the game was obviously uncharacteristic of Shadow using guns and murdering everything, even though at the time the game was made for the American audience, not the Japanese audience. In that regard, the game actually sold really well. Shadow the Hedgehog sold really well in that regard, but obviously did nothing for his character, so then he just got called an edgelord all the time. So Shadow Generations actually took it to fix the character. And surprisingly, they did it within 4 hours. That's how long it took me to beat Shadow Generations. Another thing that's really helpful about Shadow Generations is the menu design, which I'm not really particularly one for. I'm not gonna really care for a menu design that much, unless it's an absolutely abhorrent one. I'm looking at you, Resident Evil 6. But it's just, the menu design in Shadow Generations is so good. It's so clean. Probably some of the best menu work Sega has ever done for a Sonic game. It is so good. And also, the music, top notch. But then again, that's expected from Sega. But another thing that I like, that I don't really think many people particularly care for, is the inclusion of the Terios skin. For all those who don't know, Terios was the original design for Shadow, which is why in the original SA2 script, when everyone's faking Shadow for Sonic, why people would confuse Shadow for Sonic, because of the original Terios look. Looks not exactly like Sonic, but quite close. So it's nice seeing, Terios acknowledged, because it helps, acknowledge where Shadow as like a concept started. And hopefully, now that we've explored Shadow's past, what with seeing him come to terms again with the fact that, Maria is dead and Gerald is dead, and all he can do is keep moving forward for them, that hopefully we can start dipping into some of the other elements of Shadow's lore. I think the main thing being the Dark Arms from the comics. I think they could have a very big run, especially Eclipse the Darkling, who is the main baddie of an arc. I forget which one, but it would be nice seeing the Dark Arms have some more involvement in the games. Which obviously brings me to the next point, obviously, theorizing what could potentially happen with Sonic here. It's very clear that they like the open world design of Frontiers, considering they made Sonic Frontiers all about it, and Shadow Generations, the hub in White Space, is based around the hub design of Frontiers. So it could be nice to see a whole Frontiers-y level design again, but hopefully this time take less inspiration from leaving shit haphazardly placed around. I think what could also be cool is if Shadow got another standalone game. Because while Shadow Generations is way better than I give it credit for, I still think it should have been its standalone game. I think Shadow should have gotten his own game. His own standalone game that's not bundled in with Sonic Generations. But ultimately, I think what would benefit us best is if we get a full-blown standalone Shadow game. Full-blown, just no Sonic title attached to it, just a full-blown Shadow game that could help continue fixing his character with what Shadow Generations did, and also expand Shadow in more dynamic ways that allow for some better options in the future. Obviously, one of those being the voicing of Shadow. While I will forever love Kirk Hammett, obviously I think it's very clear that Keanu Reeves is stepping up to the plate, which I'm not sure if this is correct off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure in the upcoming movie DLC pack for Sonic X Shadow Generations, Keanu's actually going to voice Shadow in that DLC. He doesn't voice Shadow in the main game or in Shadow Generations as far as I'm aware. I'm pretty sure that's still Kirk. But it could be nice to see Keanu do some official game work for Shadow. Another thing that I think could also benefit us is if we fix Silver, which a lot of people shit on Silver, but the only reason a lot of people shit on Silver is because he was attached to 06, and the only reason 06 sucks as bad as it does is because during the development cycle, half of the team got split off to go work on another Sonic game that was coming out at the time. That Sonic game was Sonic and the Secret Rings. So, if you ever wondered why Sonic 06 sucks and is glitchy, it's because half of the development team got fucking forced to switch to working on Secret Rings. And we've had all these characters, and Silver, I think, definitely could deserve a redemption. Maybe whenever fucking Sonic hits the 40-year anniversary or the 50-year anniversary, we'll get a Sonic X Shadow X Silver Generations. But I think it would also be nice to help redeem Silver and Blaze. Not that they're particularly interconnected. I think 06 made them look more connected than they actually would be, considering Blaze, in her original game, which was Sonic... Rush, I think it was. She is shown to be an equal to Sonic, which could definitely be explored more, considering I don't think we're going to be bringing Surge from the comics into the Sonic gameverse anytime soon. So it could be nice seeing, Blaze and Silver fixed as characters. Is this going to happen? No. I am not a spokesperson for Sega. Sega literally has no idea who the fuck I am. But I think it would be nice if we could start seeing these sort of Shadow Generations-esque projects for the future, even if they're not standalone games. Like the next Sonic game that comes out could feature, Silver and Blaze getting some sort of redemption, or even other characters like Tails. Not like Tails would need it. I think Final Horizon did a relatively good job of sort of establishing Tails as not a little coward bitch baby anymore. But I ultimately think in general, though, that I was wrong about Shadow Generations, and it's actually a fantastically good game. Now, obviously, is it the best of all time? No, but it's really good. I would probably put it in, my top 15 video games of all time. I would personally put Shadow Generations over Sonic Generations. I would willingly play through Shadow Generations again, but Sonic Generations, I'm a little iffy on that. But hopefully this is the start of something great as we close off 2024 and we go off into 2025. This gives us a lot of opportunities for more Sonic stuff, right? We could see more development from the characters, especially with Sonic, especially primarily in the vocal direction that Frontiers took, where Sonic expressed more emotion. It's nice to see, but in general, I just hope that Sega takes these big hints we're dropping here, essentially, and does something with that and makes it so that these characters are now more dynamically grown and end up being more impactful. Especially considering, for all those who don't remember, Roger Craig Smith has shown to be a great voice actor, and I'm sure he could pull off the sort of range that Sonic could need for more vocal dynamics. After all, Roger Craig Smith was the voice actor for Chris Redfield and Ezio from Assassin's Creed. So, it's very nice that I think Roger Craig Smith could lean into the darker voice he did there for Sonic Frontiers and maybe even show some anger. But then again, this is literally all just me blowing fucking bubbles out of my mouth, essentially, just playing around, having harmless fun. None of this could mean anything. Sega's not gonna fucking watch this. They're not gonna listen to me. But I think this is just the direction that Sonic needs to be going, especially for the next game when we have no idea what that could even be. Considering Frontiers gave us a lot that we could work with, because Frontiers fixed Super Sonic, Shadow Generations fixed Shadow, so then I'm wondering what they're gonna do next. We might be in the remaster point in time where we're just remastering games. In that case, I think the only game left to be remastered that I think most people would want to see remastered is Unleashed. But ultimately, this was just a video for me to just say I was wrong about Shadow Generations. So for the first time in my channel career, I will be changing the score I gave a game. I will be changing Shadow Generations from a 4 out of 10 to a 8.5 out of 10. Yes. I genuinely think you should go play Sonic X Shadow Generations. Obviously wait for the game to go on sale. But you definitely need to experience this game if you are a Sonic fan to any sort of agreeable capacity, because it does wonders. It plays well, the music is great, the Chaos Powers feel quite nice to use, there's a lot of hidden tech involved with them as well, and also it's just a great time. So, thank you all for watching. If you're interested in seeing more, subscribe and the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload. It's free, you can change your mind later on whenever you want, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye!